Hi, this is Arjuna Arda, and I'm the founder of Awakening Coaching. I wanted to share with you a little bit of what I've been up to in the last few weeks. It's been so inspiring and so confirming to me that I really don't want to keep it to myself. I want to share it with you. I've been in Austria and Germany. In Vienna, I had an opportunity to speak at the United Nations building, which was really quite a milestone for me to be speaking to members of the United Nations from all over the world, which to me is also a sign that more and more people in more and more avenues of life are becoming open to the necessity to shift consciousness in order for us to co-create a saner world. I also then traveled to Germany, where we had one of our awakening coaching trainings. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what happened in this training, because it's really, I think, unprecedented what we are seeing is possible now on the planet. And amidst suicide bombings and the melting of the ice caps and senseless acts of abuse, all of which are worrying and disturbing, it's nice to also know that there's some good news, that there is hard evidence of dramatically increased availability of awakening mature consciousness. So let me paint for you a picture a little bit. I was in Germany with 42 people for a training. And I was training these people in a variety of skills. The main thing they were learning is called radical awakening. What that means is they were learning how to facilitate a shift in consciousness in another person from the preoccupation with thoughts and reactive feelings and beliefs and my story to a recognition of the context in which all of that is happening, to a recognition of being pure awareness, pure consciousness, of being without boundaries, without birth, without death, being free. Historically, we have assumed that that kind of recognition is limited to very few people. We've attributed it to Buddha, to Jesus, to Lao Tzu, and so on. We haven't really thought that that kind of genuine awakening, not conceptual, but genuine experiential awakening, is accessible to very many people. This began to change significantly about 23 years ago, somewhere around 1990. A lot more people started to have awakenings, but usually in the presence of a great teacher. For example, my teacher Punjaji in Lucknow, a lot of people had awakenings with him. And he asked several other people to then, including myself, Isaac Shapiro, Catherine Ingram, he asked various other people, Muji you may have heard of as well, to be custodians of this opening. But still, for a long time, the Gestalt has been somebody that quotes enlightened teacher, often raised up, literally raised up on a platform, and those people interested in awakening sitting often on the floor looking up at the teacher. That's a picture we've gotten very used to in our lifetime and also historically. And I've benefited a lot from that situation. I've benefited from sitting at the feet of many great teachers, and I've also been able to help many people by being the teacher in that situation. But at the same time, there are some things about that kind of Gestalt which can cause us to have questions. One thing is that it can become a trap for the seeker or the student. If they get used to sitting on the floor, on their mat, looking up at the teacher, waiting for pearls of wisdom, it may seem like you're kind of progressing or evolving towards something, but actually you may just get more and more habituated, identified with being the seeker and the assumption that whatever it is we're seeking for is up there on the platform. So in fact, people who get involved with teachers or teachings and organizations very often get habituated more and more used to being in that position. It can also be a trap for the teacher who also gets habituated to being higher than other people. And the problem with that is that most, as I've come to discover, most everybody on the planet is subject to ordinary human tendencies. Most people feel sexual attraction to other people at one time or another. Most people feel desire for material things. Most people, have human frailties. It's nothing wrong with any of it. We are human beings, just like sheep are sheep and dogs are dogs and dogs bark and sheep baa and cows moo, so human beings do what human beings do. The problem with setting a teacher up on a platform is that the teacher then feels obliged very often, both through internal forces and as well as the expectations of their students, to become somehow a perfect human being. And so we've seen time after time after time after time after time that the teacher gets caught having an illicit affair or accumulating money or being moody or whatever, and then we feel disappointed, we feel like we were betrayed, and often then we flush the baby with the bathwater and give up on the benefit we got from the teaching because the teacher turned out to be a human being. So this hierarchical model has turned out to be not such a great situation for anybody. Now let's come back to Germany with the 42 people in a little remote seminar house where I didn't show up there as a spiritual teacher. I told them I'm not a spiritual teacher. I kind of resigned. I'm a coach. And I was there simply to train them to be coaches. I wasn't there to be their guide, to guide them into awakening. I did that with maybe 2 people as a demonstration. But for the most part, I taught these people tools, very, very clear tools. It's nothing unpredictable about it. I taught them exact steps, a set of questions you can ask somebody with presence, with connection, to guide somebody into limitless consciousness. Of these 42 people, some had previous experience, many did not. There were a couple of psychiatrists there, several doctors. There were people from all kinds of backgrounds, many of whom had absolutely no previous experience of guiding people in this way. Moreover, they had very little previous experience of even having awakening themselves. So I did a couple of demonstrations, didn't take very long, and sent people off in groups of 3 with a teaching assistant to practice. When those people came back a few hours later and we sat again in a big circle, we could look around. Every pair of eyes around the room was bright, shiny, Buddha-like. When we went around and asked each person to speak of their experience, every person, without exception, spoke, but that's not true, with the exception of maybe 2. Every person spoke of peace, infinite expansion, freedom, an upwelling of love for no reason. Everybody spoke the same language which Buddha spoke of his experience under the Bodhi tree. Now I said with the exception of 2 people, there were a couple of people who had a little bit of doubt creeping, and the doubt was kind of overshadowing what they had recognized. By the end of that week, everybody was completely taken care of. Now this is a really significant thing I'm sharing with you, because I'm not speaking to you as a teacher who facilitated that with seekers. I'm talking to you about ordinary people in a spirit of friendship, of mutual support, being able to facilitate that with each other. As the training progressed, we learned another tool called radical releasing. Because these days it's easy to have moments of awakening. That's not a problem, to have a moment of, all boundaries drop away. Living it in day-to-day life is more difficult because we have habits of resisted energy. We have habits of resisting feelings, of resisting beliefs, of resisting events. So the work we do in awakening coaching is not to change you, but to relax the resistance. Well, again, there's a tool we have for that. It's called radical releasing. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. And about 80% of the time, the resistance is permanently gone. 20% of the time, it perpetuates a little bit, and then we just do the technique again, and usually after that, it's gone. Well, again, I demonstrated that once with one person. Then I had some of my assistant teachers demonstrate it as well, so people could see it's not just something that Arjuna does. But then, once they got the hang of it, we went through the steps, and again, everybody went off to rooms in practice groups. They came back. Everybody reports that the charge that was created through a mixture of emotion and resistance, the charge was gone. The feeling of I'm not good enough had dissipated. The feeling of there's not enough or nobody likes me, all gone. This was ordinary people facilitating with each other, getting results in terms of freedom in consciousness that are as spectacular as anything I've seen or experienced in any work I've done with people or any work I've seen anybody else doing with people. But the important thing is these are ordinary people with no background, able to facilitate in each other spectacular, shining moments of awakening. Now, I'm not living in a fantasy land here. I'm very aware that these kind of momentary glimpses of freedom need to be stabilized in day-to-day life. Unless we can live this freedom in our marriage, parenting our teenage kids, being with our elderly parents, being at work under stressful deadlines, unless we can sustain this kind of freedom in every area of life, it is less than fully embodied. But we have time for that. We have tools, we have practices to be able to do this. What's magnificent about this is we're able to bring these shifts about without hierarchy. And I am incredibly excited. I feel so much more fulfilled and overflowing to come back from a trip like this knowing that all these people got these results, not from me, but from each other, than I used to years ago giving satsang as a spiritual teacher. So this is exciting news. And I'd like to ask you to deeply consider what are the implications for our planet. If it's true, if what I'm saying is true, that we can bring about these results with each other in a friendly, open way, what does it say for what is possible for us? What does it say for the fact that I can go to the UN and people are interested, right? The representatives of the UN are interested to know how can awakening impact global relations? And then marry that with the fact that we don't need a guru dressed in a robe giving teachings from on high. We can accomplish all of this in a friendly way. It's profoundly inspiring good news for living on the planet today in 2013. We have a new course starting, which is online. And this is the other incredible thing. We used to do all of these courses residentially, like I did in Germany. I did it now in Germany because we needed translation and so on. But in the last years, we've done these courses online. People are learning radical awakening, radical releasing through the phone, right? Through conference calls on the phone and a website. And it works equally beautifully well. So, this is all inspiring stuff. We have a new course starting in the middle of May. I'd love for you to go ahead and fill out an application form. There's no obligation. You can just tell us a bit about yourself, and one of our admissions counselors will get back to you and discuss if this is the right move for you. But my new book about awakening coaching is called Better Than Sex. And we gave it that title for a reason. Because I don't know anything, including sex, that is quite as fulfilling as facilitating awakening in another person. This is incredible stuff. Profound, touching. It's, to me, feels like what we've always dreamed could be possible for human beings. Please think about how being a facilitator of awakening could be the most appropriate next step for you to integrate into what you're already doing. Thanks for listening, and I hope that we'll get to know each other better.